I think the funniest fact that I just learned is that birding is now the most popular new hobby by Gen Z. Because
Really?
it's gamified with eBird now. And so they've
Oh.
gamified it, and we are seeing a ton of Gen Z birders out at Lick Creek and around in the parks. So for our younger folks, it's time to get out and birding.
What's up, College Station? I'm here today with our special guest, Laurie Brown, the Recreation Supervisor for Parks and Recreation. Hey, Laurie, how are you?
Doing well.
All right, we're glad to have you on set with us. Today, I think we're here to talk about birding and conservation here in College Station. So I'm very excited to have you here. It's a very special time of year, I hear. Well, we're going to get into that. But let's talk about a little bit about yourself, what you do here at the city, just to cover that. I know we've had you on as a special guest before multiple times, but just to remind people about what you do here at the city.
Sure. So today I'm playing the part as the recreation supervisor for various centers, which is kind of a fun title. And my leadership, we always giggle about it a little bit, but that it is kind of fitting in a way. I wear two very different hats. So in one ballpark, I oversee the Nature Center in Lick Creek Park. So programming, trails, all of those types of things. So everything from Park in the Dark, our camping events, all the way to, our summer camps, to, even our new D&D classes that are happening over there. So that's all part of me and my staff team is something that we work together to build for the community. And then the other cup, shall we say, is the conservation work that we do in Parks and Rec. So that's Mayor's Monarch Pledge, that's Tree City USA, that is Cooling College Station, so the action part of the Cooling College Station, the boots on the ground piece, and also the most exciting part of the Bird City. So
Awesome. Okay. And for I've been out to Lick Creek many times. It's one of my favorite spots here in College Station. So wonderful work that you and your team do out there. Just have to compliment you on that. But also we're talking about this season, this time of year. What is your favorite part about your job at this particular time of year?
Oh my gosh! So this particular type of year, it's kind of serene. The college kids are still not in town, so it's not as busy. So if you're looking at a place to kind of get out and get away from nature, I think that this is my favorite time of year, where you're just like, you can recharge. The fireflies are out.
Yeah.
Right at the peak of twilight, the sunsets are long, and most importantly, that's kind of cool. Purple Martin parties are going on. So.
Right. And how can people get in contact with you if they want to find out more about Lick Creek and things like that?
Best for me by email.
Okay.
And so that's going to be lbrown@cstx.gov.
Okay, cool. Now we've talked a little bit, we've mentioned it here and there about birds. Now I know the city is a bird city. Why don't we talk a little bit about that? How did we get our bird city designation?
It's a process that I would say that predates me getting here even, but about 10 years in the making. I would say a little over a decade.
Wow.
There was some of the original groundwork was laid for the program even before the program was even established. But more recently, in the last 3 years, we've gotten a group a conservation advisory group was built in Parks and Rec, which our original conservation advisory group started with about 23 members of the community from various groups, so Master Naturalist, Rio Brazos Audubon Society, the Post Oak Chapter of Native Plant Society, and many other folks like faculty and supercharged students from A&M that wanted to go out and do good in the community. And we got together and looked at a way that we could, and we found out that a lot of the goals that we all had together could be housed under Bird City, shall we say. And a lot of the parks goals and where they wanted to go can also be housed under Bird City, which is great because it's a conservation program with a lot of teeth. So working together, it's when we were applying, there was about 70-ish initiatives. Now there's over 100. So we got in.
The big group effort.
Yes. So we got in our application in time for that one, but we are pursuing pretty actively about 38 of those as a conservation group, which is pretty great.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit about that. Like, why should residents care about us being a bird city?
Sure. So a bird city, to talk a little bit about what that is again, and it's like there's there's about 70 to 100 objectives that a community can work on, and those are to reduce threats for birds, education, outreach and involvement, kind of really fun festivals and education events. Also, it is looking at habitat management pieces, so building habitat, improving habitat, and creating those, and then looking at sustainability pieces. So there's a lot more within Bird City that's just not just for the birds.
Right.
So yeah.
Yeah, and in particular, like in College Station, we have a lot of birds in this area that I don't think many people realize, right?
Right.
Can you talk a little bit about that? What is our area like in terms of birds, and is there a particular spot in our city that has the most, and where is a good spot to start looking at birds?
Yeah. And so, like, one thing I forgot to mention is why Bird City, right?
Yeah.
And so that was the one thing I was like totally rolled over that one.
Right.
I didn't get to answer that
You're
one.
Okay.
So why Bird City? And a lot of people ask, and it is a conservation designation. Only 16 cities out of the, I think, 917 cities in Texas have it.
Yeah, that's a huge deal.
It's a huge deal, and it's really hard to get, and it's even harder to keep. And so that's one of those things. It involves a lot of grant money. I know that in parks, we work a lot with Texas Parks and Wildlife. This is one of their projects.
Yeah.
And so having that little designation with you helps. And it really does help with it, for us applying for grants, which is free money, right? For, the city. If we can spend money in parks one way, we can save it for maintenance in another way.
Right.
It's also, creating more improved green spaces, which are beautiful, beautiful and wildlife diverse, and it brings in tourism. So, from Purple Mart parties, birders are a huge demographic of people,
right?
And they're quiet. They usually just sneak around with their binoculars, looking at trees and places. So, but they come, they eat, they do all the things. So you're looking at a tourism boom, and so with improvements of green spaces also. That when you improve green spaces, you have property values that go up. So it really is a good thing for the city. So good financially, good for the people and those things as well. So, but if we're looking at cool birds, and looking at kind of like, I think the second question that you had is what is cool, what we should know about. Definitely, we have I think a little over 300 species of birds that migrate through the Brazos Valley, and the majority of them can be seen at our parks. So, which is really cool. So there's something new all the time.
Just flying on through, huh?
Flying on through. So absolutely. But yeah.
Awesome. And now, recently, we have some flying on through here, and that's the purple martins, right?
We
so
do.
I know that's been having a lot of attention lately in our area is the purple martins, and we just recently had the purple martin party. Why don't we talk a little bit about that, and what does that mean for College Station, and how did that impact us? And I think, we were just talking about, are they still here? How can people see them?
Absolutely.
So let's chat a bit about that, and what are purple martins, first of all?
So, first of all, purple martins are the largest sparrow in the United States, or swallow, not sparrow, largest swallow in the United States. So they're a beautiful bird, kind of mid-sized, a little bit smaller than a robin, and they're, the males are kind of a dark blue purplish color. The females have a tan belly with dark blue purplish feathers, here and there on their backs, and the babies are mostly brown and kind of a tawny color. So when we're looking at purple martins and kind of why they're here, they are a bird that are completely raised by people. And so, unlike every other bird in the world that I know of, or at least in the United States, they flock to people. And so they see people as safety. They're raised by people, so they see people as safety. And so they want to be where human landmarks are. So purple martins, even before people started raising them, have been coming to the area for about 30,000 years. We've been able to track them, that long ago.
Yeah.
So they've been doing this a lot longer than, we've existed here. Or College Station has been in existence. But since, humans have had such a weighted hand in raising them, which are in beautiful little homes or little, crazy little gourd houses or specially made bird houses that you can put up in February. You put them up in February, the purple martins come to them, and they have babies from about early March-ish to about May-ish. May, June-ish, so late, really super late May, early June, the local martins will gather in areas that are very populated with people, usually lit up at night because they find that safe.
Yes.
So that lit up at night, trees that are usually equidistant on the top, so that way a large group of them can all land at one place and still see each other.
Right.
And then also that has a lot of landmarks around it that are usually human landmarks that don't move very often. So buildings, so buildings that don't have a whole lot of movement to them. So they've had a lot of interest in a lot of different places in College Station, and their favorites so far that we've noticed over the last few years has been A&M West Campus.
Wow.
And so it's been pretty cool. So.
Yeah, and that's where the Purple Martin Watch Party was recently.
Yes. So the Purple Martin Watch Parties, you can still see them. They'll be here till probably the third week in August, looking at how what their patterns are doing right now. So they'll come in and they'll start coming in about late June, early July, and they'll start, their roosting behavior. And what roosting behavior is, so the local martins will all start to gather in a spot. And then you'll have martins that are migrating from Canada, all the way from Canada, all the way out through the Midwest, coming down and coming to Texas to look for a roosting spot. And they see our local martins roosting in a place and they're like, we like that space too. They're social birds. And so they all start, bunking up together in one spot. And so birds create these large roosts. One, it's safety. No predator is going to get in there.
Right,
and
safety in numbers, right?
Absolutely. Predators are usually pretty far and scarce when they're roosting. And so, things like birds that are kind of nuisance to them, like invasive European starlings, even get scared off by the martins when they start doing their things. So they're impressive when they do that. But for them, it's a time where they come here because there's a lot of flying insects for them to eat. And that is, really important, is that we are a agricultural community. Like when you go outside of the College Station borders, we're bordered by farmland every which way.
Yeah.
And so they are just, if you watch them over the fields between, 4 and 7 o'clock, you'll just watch like large group of them just skimming the top of the crops for insects. And so they skim all the crops, and then they come into town at night to sleep. So.
And how many are there? Do you have an estimated number of?
We do. We actually had a professional counter where we took transects of different groups. We had about 30,000. We had about 30,000 the first few nights in June, and that got all the way up to 50,000 by the first part of July.
Gosh, that's incredible.
During our watch party, we had a professional counter come back out, and there were about 75,000, which is a lot of birds in one place. And I'll tell you, 30,000 to 75,000, regardless what number you had, is still very impressive. So but there are places to see them. So we did some improvements in parks to try to attract them into different areas, to try to get that group to let them know that the martins are welcome in all different places at College Station. And they did take the bait, especially for one park. So we had about 25,000 roost in John Crompton Park.
Oh, really?
So you can see them at John Crompton Park. Usually it's a little bit harder to see because there's not a whole lot of parking, but kind of around the reflecting pool out there in John Crompton. If you go out there, then they're in the trees over there. But you are still welcome to go up to the A&M West Campus garage and climb up to the top. And about between 8:15 to 9 o'clock, you can watch the spectacle.
That's the prime time?
Prime time, about 45 minutes of your life. Give it a shot.
And you mentioned, so you set up a certain way to attract them over in John Crompton. What did we do to try and attract them over there?
We put lights in trees. We played music, like bird calls early in the season, so that when the birds were roosting, they would fly. When they're flying through some of the parks, they would hear purple martins there.
So we just played music on.
Played like bird calls in a truck.
Just out of a city truck?
Yep, out of a city truck, because their birds can hear a raindrop hit a tin lid on a water can, miles away. They can hear a bird call in a truck.
That's pretty incredible. Yeah, and we attracted 25,000 there. That made an impact.
It's a good number. So it moves them out of places that are not safe for them. So there's some urban spaces that just aren't as safe for, especially large roost of birds, because of tall buildings, reflective windows and surfaces. We want to get them, and we want to welcome them into places like parks, especially it doesn't. It makes absolute sense with John Crompton. It's more an established park. It has some very key, unique features like the little gazebo over there, and it's well populated all the way around it. So we can tell that they feel right at home with those extra lights for that short amount of time. The great part about it is that we do lights out. We do a lights out for migration program, but the purple martins are so strange in their migration pattern that the lights out's not affected because they're a summer bird. It's just for a very short amount of time. So even our local birds, the few lights that they need to be attracted to, just didn't make a huge deal for our local birds that are there already in the parks. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, it's caused a lot of attention and it's made a big impact on people. I know on social media, the city has shared a lot of photos and videos of Parks and Recreation on their social media pages. We've been sharing a lot of photos and videos, and it's been great to see how much attention and people have been paying attention to this phenomenon.
It's just a world wonder.
Being able to go and experience this.
Being able to get to see a natural wonder. I mean, we should be proud of the city, proud of A&M, proud of the Rio Brazos Audubon Society that has been out there looking for them and helping people do those things. I mean, this is a really exciting marvel that you don't get to see. And as a person who loves Purple Martin watch parties, I can tell you, when you're up on the West Campus garage, this is the only one that I've ever seen where you're in it.
Right.
Like most of the time you're ground level and watching them fly above you, but where you're watching them fly through you, like over your head, but feet over your head.
It's just something to experience.
It is just amazing.
Yeah, and I see you wearing your Purple Martin shirt today.
Dude, we're still selling Purple Martin shirts at Central Park. So if anybody wants to.
So if anyone wants to buy a shirt, where can they buy them?
Central Park. Central Park. They're $12, and they're still there. So
all right. There's a nice little plug there.
We are. Yep. Not many left. So,
really?
So
they've been selling fast?
Oh my gosh. Oh yes.
Okay.
So they're exciting. So.
Wow. Okay. Well, tell me a little bit about some of the programs that you offer. And I guess in your world, to do with, I guess, birding and other during this time of the year.
Very cool. So we actually offer a Purple Martin housing class.
Oh,
that's going to be happening in December. So you guys can look that one up. Our new rec guide just came out. So grab a rec guide, pop it in there. So become a Lord of the Gourd, and
I like
put
that
your
one.
own. Oh, it's so fun. Put up your Purple Martin houses and those things. But we also offer birding 101 every first Saturday of the month. And so depending on how hot it is, it'll either happen at 7:30 or 8:30. And that is led by the Rio Brazos Audubon Society volunteers.
Nice.
They are a warm and friendly group. And we accommodate any birders of any age and ability. So please allow that, anybody can come and bird. No experience necessary. So, we have some of those. We have a hummingbird class coming up to teach people about responsible hummingbird feeding. And we also have bird stuff at all of our festivals and even Park in the Dark. So during our night hikes, if you're wanting to check out, the hoots and toots at night of the owls, the local owl populations that we have, then it's a great thing to do. So we're very birdie at the city. At Parks and Rec. So.
Yeah, and have y'all been putting out some new bird houses out along Lick Creek? Because I recently went for a hike out there, and I noticed that there was some more intentional bird houses out there.
We do. So we've got some intentional structures going in. So we started bluebird houses.
Yeah, they look really good.
And so a few of them are going up. Bluebirds are another rare species that we have, a species that's in mass decline. And so we're working on putting intentional bird houses out there at Lick Creek in a few places. We also have a Purple Martin house. However, the bluebirds keep moving into it first. And so we're like, the bluebirds are technically more rare than Purple Martin, so we're going to let them go. We're hoping that if we build bluebird houses, the Purple Martins will actually get to stay in a Purple Martin house and not be moved out by bluebirds. So those are some of those. But we also have some fountains and bird blinds that are out there, so people can enjoy them with their binoculars or just their eyes. We have bird food stations out there where you can see a multitude of different birds at each of those blinds, and they are very, very fun. They're growing going. Where, as the fountains are going in right now, I think we're the next few weeks, the one that's at Yopon is going to be finished. The one at Foxtrot's done, and we're just going to working on planting through October. Is that you can come by and watch those grow up and get really cozy and beautiful, and watch it, all the native plants and everything develop, and which will also be bird food. So lots of great stuff. So,
y'all stay busy out there.
Oh my gosh, busy all the time.
Yeah,
So.
and what's your team like out there? How many of you are there? Or is there lots of volunteers? Or
We do. We have a lot of volunteers, and I would definitely say that, we really do rely on our conservation advisory group of volunteers, but we also rely heavily on my one full-time staff, which is Patrick, and then my 13. Oh my gosh, he's wonderful. I mean, absolutely wonderful. I'd be headless without Patrick. And my 13 part-time staff, which are absolutely amazing. So we are busy all the time. I think we're the busiest group I've ever seen. But we're great.
Well, you always do wonderful things. But speaking of conservation, how can people at home, get more into conservation in the city in terms of native plants or
Sure.
For birding at their home, for hummingbirds or other birds, how can they attract birds to their homes as well? Let's speak a little bit more about that.
Awesome. So we do have those responsible bird feeding classes, which teaches people how to attract birds to your yard, which is great. So it's a great step. But also, if you're a person that just wants to take pictures, and not even good pictures, need I mind you, there's just your phone
pull your phone out
and take
those
a picture of a
cameras on those
grackle
phones
in the
nowadays.
parking lot.
Yeah.
Trust me. It's important. One of the projects that we have is called iNaturalist, and we do an iNaturalist program, and we have a College Station biota, which collects species and species occurrences all throughout the city. So it is important for someone to take pictures of grackles or pictures of whatever they see, whether it be a grackle, whether it be a butterfly, whether it be, a weird native fly they might see, anything, an acorn, and take a picture that they see. So anything wild that they see outside. I mean, if you planted it, or if it's like your pet dog, then please don't take those. But you can upload those photos, and it's a free system, and it'll help identify it. And so it's kind of a cool thing about iNaturalist. It's not an AI system. It is people actually looking at your photo, grading it, going like, okay, this is the right ID, and giving you an absolutely wonderful ID that was reviewed by human eyes. So
wow,
it's kind of a cool program.
Where can people go to download this?
Download iNaturalist.org. There's an app. There's an app, and then there's also a children-friendly app called Seek. That doesn't have all the tracking on it, because we don't want to track children's stuff.
Nice.
But for adults, you have the iNaturalist option, which is great.
Apple Store, Google Store.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
it's on everything.
Okay, nice.
Absolutely everything. And it's a program that you can use anywhere in the entire world.
Wow.
So you can go to Costa Rica and use it. You can go to Antarctica and use it. And you can use it right here in College Station as well. So at Lick Creek Park, because of this program, we've recorded over 3,000 species. So
wow.
It's pretty awesome.
That's
awesome.
really neat.
Yeah.
Awesome.
And so I'd say that's a way to do it. It's the simplest, is to get in on a community science effort. But, come join a birding effort. So come out and do Birding 101 class and learn a bird. You don't have to know your birds. That's the point of those classes.
Right.
And when I tell people, they were like, what's the best bird to learn? It's like whichever one excites you the most. And then the next one will be, whichever the next one that excites you the most.
Exactly.
And that's
you have to start somewhere, right?
You do. If you learn 10, you're better than most people on this planet. So, that'll be great.
And then I think earlier we spoke about the Lights Out initiative that the city does. When does that start here in the city?
So we have Lights Out starts during, peak migration, which is really for us about, we focus it mid-October to about mid-November in the fall, and then mid-April to about mid-May in the spring. So there's 2 times where we have migration, because they're coming back and forth, which is crazy, because when you're looking at, everyone's like, wait, purple martins are February and July, and some birds are outliers, but the majority of birds that come through migrate during those 2 peak times. And so you have mass weather changes during those times. It's also, I think, the best time to be outside is during those times. And so you can catch some really cool birds if you're out there looking. But it's important to turn out your lights during those times, because we have such a large groups of birds, and birds, when they see lights, it confuses them. They think it's something, they're attracted to them regardless. And so they fly towards those and, sometimes will collide with a window or a wall, a glass wall or something. And, if they collide with it, they're flying super fast. And it's usually fatal when they do. So even if they hit the ground and fly off, they might die of injuries later. So it's really important to do that, and it's easy. And save you money.
To flip off some of those lights. Yes.
Yep,
yeah.
It's like
save some money too.
Yeah. It's like it's during school time. There's some really cute challenges out there. They're telling people to like have dinner by candlelight or something during lights out.
That's neat. I like that one.
There's some cute stuff that you can do during lights out that is kind of fun. But,
cool. And what about, what are the urban challenges here that we face with birds? Because, I know we're becoming more dense here in College Station. What challenges do we have?
I think that, some of the big challenges, especially looking at College Station in general, is focusing in on invasive plants. We have a lot of invasive foliage that chokes out our native foliage, which makes it to where, there's not enough bird food out there for birds to eat. And so there are some trees that create food that looks like it's doing a good job, but it makes the birds sick. And so like, for example, privet, it's a native shrub that a lot of people have. Most of it is from China, Japan, and a lot of it in Southeast Asia. But in Texas, and especially in our area, it kills post oak trees. And so they crowd out a post oak tree. They produce a chemical that harms other vegetation around them, and then you'll just have giant mottes of privet and nothing else. They produce berries, but they do make birds sick, and so they'll poop them somewhere else, and then you have a whole line more privet. So that invasive plant piece is a huge piece when thinking about it. But there's also things like turning your lights out, which is a huge thing. So lights out, tall buildings and birds colliding within tall buildings, and even things like keeping your cats indoors. So the feral cat issue, or really the majority of birds are being taken out by people's loose house cats. It's like, your pets. It's looking at managing your pets in ways that
just
works
being
for
more
people.
mindful, right?
Absolutely. Of being like going, hey, cats kill birds, and that's sort of the way of things, but it's like, well, maybe it doesn't have to be that way. Maybe you can keep a hold of your cat a little bit. So I have a cat and I love him. And so there's some of those things where you want him to, you want birds to thrive. And so I think that it's just working within those ways is supporting birds by building habitat, restoring habitat, and eliminating those threats within a city are pretty important.
Right. Now, so you're very passionate about birds and conservation and everything that you do here at the city. So I think we should move to a lightning round here.
Sounds good.
So tell me, what is one bird here? Well, it's gonna be hard because it's one bird. Okay. Everyone here in the city should be able to ID.
Purple martin. And I say that with the love of my life, and the reason is that people ask, they go like, what are those on the telephone poles? And sometimes, and a lot of the times, if you're there between 5 and 6, they're purple martins. And so people don't realize that, as they're going to their nightly roost, they are absolutely everywhere. And I mean, some people are like, oh my gosh, they're roosting. We're really scared. There's 16 purple martins here. You're like, yep, that's what they do. But they're very cool. And so getting people to learn that they're not scary and that it's very temporary. The time that they're going to be here is really important, and to celebrate them when they come back in the spring and when they leave us in the summer is a really cool thing. So yeah.
Okay. And then what about a surprise fact about birds?
A surprise fact about birds. I think my favorite surprise fact when looking at them is the fact that all of their bones are hollow. So when you're looking at their hollow bones to help make them light, and so a bird that looks really large is actually almost weightless when you look at like a big vulture. You're looking at it like an 8-pound bird is all. I mean, it's just
even
pretty
like
amazing.
The large pelicans and things
They're like 25-pound bird at most. I mean, they're not that, they don't weigh that much. I mean, when you're looking at it. So it's like, oh my gosh, they're like as light as clouds. So it's amazing that their entire world is adapted for flight. Kind of a fun one on that one is that birds usually poop right before they leave, before they lift off, which is important if you're at a purple martin party. So this is important. This is a pro tip here. So birds usually poop before they leave a branch. So don't stand underneath the tree.
How many incidents were there at the purple martin party or other viewing times of incidents of pooping on people.
Yeah. So at our purple martin party, the great thing is you're high up. They've already left the branches.
Perfect.
So it's actually pretty good. That
Safe.
was very
Marked
pretty
safe
darn
at the
safe,
party.
right? So it was pretty darn safe from getting blessed by.
So
a bird.
that was the perfect viewing spot.
Really, it is. That's what I'm saying. But if you're
Okay.
underneath the trees staring up, I'm like, ooh, goodness.
All right. So avoid the trees.
Avoid the trees.
Find a higher ground to view.
Find higher ground. Yes. So.
All right, I'll take that in mind. Keep that in mind. What about a bucket list bird you'd love to see in the wild?
In the wild, if it's, I'm going to do two-part there. So in the absolute wild, it's
Okay.
going to be a scarlet macaw
Okay.
in Costa Rica. That's a big red parrot, and they're
Okay.
absolutely beautiful, like a giant rainbow. If it's here, it's an indigo bunting. And I have heard them, and they're beautiful, like a little painted bunting, a little blue bird about this big. And I can hear them singing all the time, but I have never seen one with my own physical eyes, and I know they are here. And I've seen pictures of them and all those things, but I would love to see one here.
Wow.
So, yeah.
Yeah, I grew up in Australia.
Oh,
So,
very cool. Oh man, you had some amazing birds.
yes,
So,
we
yes.
do. I grew up with like hundreds of these colorful rainbow lorikeets. I don't know.
Yes,
They were
yes.
everywhere growing up. And I used to have we had these olive trees along our home, and they were just attracted to them.
Oh, yes.
And we would have
Oh, yes.
hundreds of them just sitting in them every afternoon at around 5 p.m. and they would but the sound of them was just deafening.
Yeah, it can
But-
be. Parrots are excitable ones.
But it was incredible, and I have been trying to search for a similar bird here that with all the rainbow colors, but I haven't been able to find one here.
The closest thing I think if we're looking for rainbows that we have, is the painted bunting.
Okay.
And so painted bunting is a pretty cool bird. Now I haven't seen them in mass like you get with Laurie's
Yeah.
lorikeets, but they're pretty cool that way though.
Nice. Okay. Yeah. I mean, I have a fascination with particular birds because of growing up over on the other
Oh my
side
gosh,
of the world.
yeah, absolutely.
But,
you get some really
yeah.
good birds over there.
Yeah, we
Yes,
do.
yes.
But I have an appreciation here of some of the new things that I've found and discovered. So, I appreciate everything that you do here to, educate people and to conserve. So, what about binoculars or a camera? What would you pick?
That's tough, but if you're starting out, I say binoculars so you can learn where to find them.
Okay.
And if you are a person that as soon as you get on that, I'm sorry, you're going to be getting a camera. I mean, so,
Would you be wanting a professional camera or just your phone?
I mean, I think that eventually you're going to want a more professional camera, but I think that the most professional cameras are not that expensive now. I mean, now you can get a really, really darn good camera for a few $100.
Right.
That works great.
Do you yourself
so
carry a professional
I
camera?
brought my camera with me now everywhere I go because now we're trying to
That
take
is
good
wonderful.
pictures. And so,
That is awesome.
I have a camera and binoculars that I bring everywhere. So, my poor husband. So he's like, yes, we'll pull over and look at the birds. So
That's
it's a
awesome.
good sport.
And what about the best way to help birds?
Oh gosh, I think it's learning more and taking the piece
I like
of your
that.
passion that you really love. And so the part that resonates with you, because some pieces of conservation are going to be like, wow, that's easy to work into my life. Some pieces you're like, not sure if I'm there yet. Start with the easy things and then it builds off of there. So small actions can have huge consequences. So, fit it where it works. And so I think that's the best way to get into birds. And
I like that
I think
piece of
the
advice.
the funniest fact that I just learned is that birding is now the most popular new hobby by Gen Z.
Really?
Because it's gamified with eBird now. And so they've gamified it. And we are seeing a ton of Gen Z birders out at Lick Creek and around in the parks. So for our younger folks, it's time to get out and birding. So
Yeah. Wow. I did. That's a
Adopt your
fun fact
hobbies.
right
Yeah,
there.
yeah.
That could have been your fun fact. I
There
did
we
not
are. It
know
could be a
that.
fun fact, yes.
I learned
So
lots
there
of
you
new
go.
things. What about upcoming programs? Is there anything we need to know about? That we just have to know about coming up, events, things that you want people to listen.
Oh my gosh. Well, definitely the Purple Martin class in December.
Okay.
But more recently, next week, we have a hummingbird class, which will come around.
Okay.
So we do the hummingbird classes quite often. But I think that, looking at Park in the Dark is probably the one
Okay.
that I would definitely focus people in, so you can hear the owls. And we also have a threatened species that we can often hear in October and often in spring as well when we do our Park in the Dark events, called the Chuck Will's Widow, and it's a nighthawk, and it's about this big, so it's a big giant whippoorwill, and so and they're a threatened species now that we have that stay at La Creek Park, which is pretty cool. So you can hear them. My gosh, they're haunting, and they're
wow,
cool.
that is incredible. Well, where can people learn more about all of this information and more?
Oh my gosh, pick up a new rec guide. I mean, they are cool. So, Google Parks and Recreation, I think it's like parks, parks, yeah.
Yeah, cscs.gov / parks. Yes.
My gosh, thank you. I blanked. I was like, it's and so
you're
download
A-okay.
that rec guide, and
yes.
you'll get there.
So, y'all are going to be distributing the Parks and Rec guide all around the city.
You can pick one up at every center. They're already
Yes.
there. So, I
Yes.
mean, just came hot off the press yesterday. So
Wonderful, wonderful. And is there anything else you want to tell us about before we wrap it
not
up?
that I can think of. But I mean, thank you guys for having me. And
Yeah.
I mean, we do a lot for the birds, but there's a lot of other great stuff coming up for nature and for people. So check out the rec guides, and I know we're busy, and I know y'all are busy too. So let's go do great things.
Yeah.
So,
Well, thank you so much for coming on today. We really appreciate it, and thank you so much for everything that you do and everything that your team does. We appreciate it.
Well, thank you.
And that's what's up.